Have you ever looked at your dinner plate and thought, I'm eating healthy? So why do I feel more tired, more swollen, more off than I did just a few years ago? If you're over 60, that question matters more than you may realize, because what I'm about to tell you could explain a silent problem developing inside your body right now. I'm Dr. Mark Ellis, and I need you to listen closely because this isn't about junk food or obvious mistakes. It's about vegetables, foods you've trusted your entire life that can quietly overload your kidneys once you reach a certain age, without pain, without warning, and often without a single red flag until real damage has already begun. After 60, your kidneys don't fail overnight. They slow down. They filter less efficiently. And when that happens, certain healthy vegetables can begin to act like tiny stress tests your kidneys never get to recover from. The fatigue you brush off, the ankle swelling, you blame on aging, the blood pressure that keeps creeping up. These are not random changes. For millions of older Americans, they are early warning signals. And the shocking part is that the trigger may be sitting on your plate at dinner tonight. But here's the good news, and this is why you should stay with me until the very end. This is not about fear, restriction, or giving up the foods you love. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you which common vegetables can quietly strain aging kidneys, why this happens from a medical standpoint, and most importantly, the simple swaps and preparation choices that can dramatically reduce that stress and help your kidneys work lighter, longer, and safer, even after 60. And once you understand this, you'll never look at healthy eating the same way again. Let's start with a vegetable almost everyone trusts without hesitation: beets. Bright red, naturally sweet, praised for blood pressure and circulation. For many people over 60, beets feel like a smart, healthy choice. They show up in salads, side dishes, and more recently in daily beet juice routines. And that's exactly where the danger quietly begins. The issue with beets isn't sugar or calories, it's oxalates, compounds that aging kidneys struggle to clear efficiently. Beets are one of the highest oxalate vegetables in a typical American diet. Oxalates bind to calcium and form microscopic crystals. In younger bodies, healthy kidneys flush most of them out. But after 60, kidney filtration slows. Those crystals don't always leave. They linger, accumulate, and over time can irritate kidney tissue or become the starting point for kidney stones, often without sharp pain or obvious warning signs. I remember a patient, a 68-year-old grandmother, who proudly started every morning with fresh beet juice after reading it cleans the blood. At first, she felt virtuous about her routine, but a few months later, subtle changes appeared: dull, lower back discomfort, ankle swelling, persistent fatigue she blamed on age. When lab work finally caught it, her kidneys were under stress, and imaging showed early oxalate deposits. Nothing dramatic, nothing urgent, just silent damage building day by day. Once she stopped the daily beet juice and switched to lower oxalate vegetables, her symptoms gradually eased. Here's the science behind that story. 1 cup of cooked beets can deliver hundreds of milligrams of oxalates. In juice form, that amount becomes even more concentrated, hitting the kidneys all at once. Studies consistently show that oxalate load matters more than single servings. It's repeated exposure that raises risk, especially in older adults. Beet greens make it worse. They contain even higher oxalate and potassium levels, doubling the strain on aging kidneys. This doesn't mean beets are bad. It means frequency, form, and preparation matter. Boiling beets and discarding the water can lower oxalate levels. Pairing them with calcium-rich foods can reduce absorption in the gut. And most importantly, daily beet juice is a risky habit for aging kidneys, no matter how healthy it sounds. But here's the part most people don't realize: beets are only the beginning. Because the next vegetable on this list contains even more oxalates, and it's one that millions of Americans eat every single day believing it protects their health. If beets quietly introduce oxalates into aging kidneys, then spinach takes that risk to an entirely different level. Spinach has been crowned a superfood for decades. It's praised for iron, magnesium, vitamin K, antioxidants, and heart health. Many people over 60 believe that adding spinach every day in salads, smoothies, omelets, or pasta is one of the smartest health decisions they can make. But this is where good intentions can turn into long-term kidney stress. Spinach is one of the highest oxalate foods in the human diet. 1 single cup of cooked spinach can contain over 700 milligrams of oxalates. For younger adults with strong kidneys, much of that load can be filtered out. But after 60, kidney clearance naturally slows. Oxalates don't just pass through anymore. They bind to calcium, form sharp crystals, and gradually accumulate inside kidney tissue. This doesn't always cause immediate pain. Instead, it shows up subtly: cloudy urine, unexplained fatigue, mild back discomfort, or recurring inflammation that no one initially connects to food. I once spoke with a retired engineer in his early 70s who proudly drank a spinach smoothie every morning. He told me I thought I was doing everything right, but over time his lab work showed declining kidney function and early stone formation. What shocked him wasn't the diagnosis, it was the cause. When spinach smoothies were removed and replaced with lower oxalate greens, his kidney markers stabilized within months. The problem wasn't spinach once in a while, it was raw spinach every day without a break. Here's why raw spinach is especially risky. Cooking matters. Boiling spinach for just 1 to 2 minutes can reduce oxalate levels by up to 70 to 80% because oxalates leach into the water. Smoothies and raw salads preserve the full oxalate load, delivering it straight to kidneys that may already be struggling. On top of that, oxalates interfere with the absorption of calcium, magnesium, and iron nutrients older adults already have trouble maintaining. This doesn't mean spinach must disappear from your life. It means rotation and preparation are everything. Cook it briefly, discard the water. Avoid pairing it with other high oxalate foods like beets or almonds in the same meal. And don't treat spinach as a daily staple after 60. Variety protects the kidneys. But even oxalates aren't the only hidden danger lurking in vegetables after 60. Because the next food on this list doesn't damage the kidneys through crystals, it does so by disrupting something far more dangerous and far less obvious. If oxalates quietly damage the kidneys by forming crystals, then sweet potatoes harm them in a completely different and often more dangerous way. Sweet potatoes are widely seen as a better carb, lower glycemic impact, rich in fiber, packed with beta-carotene. Many people over 60 switch from rice or white potatoes to sweet potatoes, believing they're making a heart-healthy, blood sugar-friendly upgrade. But what rarely gets discussed is the potassium load they carry and how aging kidneys struggle to handle it. Potassium is essential. It keeps your heart rhythm steady and your muscles working properly. But potassium is only safe when your kidneys can remove the excess. After 60, kidney filtration naturally declines. When potassium intake stays high, blood levels rise silently. This condition, called hyperkalemia, often develops without pain. No warning, no obvious symptoms until dizziness, weakness, heart palpitations, or dangerous rhythm disturbances appear. I remember a 70-year-old retired bus driver who replaced most of his evening carbs with baked sweet potatoes to eat cleaner. On paper, it looked like a great choice. But within months, he began experiencing lightheadedness and irregular heartbeats, especially at night. Blood tests revealed elevated potassium levels and reduced kidney clearance. The sweet potatoes weren't toxic, but they were overwhelming kidneys that could no longer keep up. Once his portions were reduced and his vegetables rotated, his symptoms improved. Here's the science. One medium sweet potato contains over 500 milligrams of potassium. For healthy kidneys, that's manageable. For aging kidneys, especially when combined with other potassium-rich foods like tomatoes, beans, or bananas, it becomes cumulative stress. Baking and roasting concentrate potassium even further, while boiling and discarding the water can reduce potassium content by a significant margin. This is where preparation and portion control change everything. Half a cup of boiled sweet potato is very different from a large baked one. Spacing potassium-rich foods across the day, instead of stacking them in one meal, gives kidneys time to recover. And pairing sweet potatoes with low-potassium vegetables helps balance the load instead of compounding it. The biggest mistake isn't eating sweet potatoes occasionally. It's treating them as a daily staple after 60, assuming natural automatically means safe. Aging kidneys don't respond to intentions, they respond to total load. But potassium overload doesn't stop with sweet potatoes. Because the next vegetable on this list is even more deceptive. It appears in sauces, juices, and everyday meals, quietly multiplying potassium exposure without most people ever noticing. If sweet potatoes overload the kidneys through potassium in obvious portions, then tomatoes are far more deceptive because they hide their damage in plain sight. Tomatoes don't feel heavy, they don't feel indulgent, they're everywhere: pasta sauce, pizza soups, salads, sandwiches, and even breakfast juice. For many people over 60, tomatoes feel harmless, even protective, thanks to their reputation for heart health and antioxidants like lycopene. But this is exactly why they quietly become a kidney problem. Tomatoes create a double burden for aging kidneys: potassium and oxalates at the same time. A single fresh tomato may not seem dangerous, but the risk comes from concentration and frequency. 1 cup of tomato sauce can equal several whole tomatoes. Tomato paste is even more intense. When these concentrated forms are eaten day after day, potassium intake climbs rapidly, while oxalates add another layer of strain by encouraging crystal formation in kidneys that already filter more slowly after 60. I once worked with a 72-year-old man who drank tomato juice every morning because he believed it was good for his heart. Add to that pasta dinners twice a week and pizza nights with his grandchildren, and his tomato intake was far higher than he realized. He didn't feel sick, he didn't feel pain, but routine labs revealed rising potassium levels and early kidney stress. A few months later, he passed a small kidney stone, something he never expected from healthy foods. When tomato juice was limited and sauces were rotated with other vegetables, his kidney markers stabilized. Here's what the science shows. A medium tomato contains nearly 300 milligrams of potassium. Tomato products multiply that amount quickly. At the same time, oxalates in tomatoes, though lower than spinach, still contribute to calcium oxalate stone formation when exposure is frequent. Aging kidneys don't just struggle with one problem, they struggle with combined stressors arriving together, meal after meal. The solution isn't total avoidance, it's awareness. Using tomatoes as an accent rather than a base matters. Cooking them with calcium-rich foods can help bind oxalates in the gut. Staying hydrated supports clearance. And most importantly, rotating tomatoes with lower potassium vegetables prevents silent accumulation over time. The danger with tomatoes isn't one meal, it's repetition. And when repetition becomes routine, kidneys pay the price quietly. But there is one vegetable that often delivers the largest potassium hit of all, especially when prepared the way most Americans love it. And this final one may be the deciding factor between stable kidney function and irreversible decline. If tomatoes quietly multiply potassium through sauces and juices, then potatoes deliver it in one heavy, unmistakable hit, and that's why they often become the final tipping point for aging kidneys. Potatoes are comfort food in America. Mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving, French fries on the weekend, baked potatoes as an easy filling dinner. They feel familiar, affordable, and harmless. But after 60, potatoes can place one of the largest potassium burdens on kidneys that are already slowing down. A single medium baked potato contains over 900 milligrams of potassium, nearly double what you'd get from a banana. For younger kidneys, that excess can often be managed, but aging kidneys don't clear potassium as efficiently. When potassium builds up in the blood, a condition called hyperkalemia develops, and this is where things become dangerous. Hyperkalemia doesn't always announce itself with pain. It shows up as subtle weakness, unusual fatigue, shortness of breath, or irregular heartbeats, symptoms many older adults dismiss as just getting older. I remember a 66-year-old retiree who replaced rice with potatoes because he thought it was a healthier, more natural choice. Within months, his lab work showed rising potassium levels, and he often felt drained by mid-afternoon. He wasn't overeating. He wasn't reckless. He was simply eating potatoes the way he always had: baked, mashed, sometimes fried, unaware that his kidneys could no longer handle that load. When potatoes were reduced and swapped for lower potassium options, his energy slowly returned and his potassium levels stabilized. The problem doesn't stop at potassium alone. How potatoes are prepared makes them even more dangerous. Fries, chips, and mashed potatoes are often loaded with salt and fats, creating a double-strain potassium retention and sodium-driven fluid imbalance. This combination raises blood pressure, forces kidneys to work harder, and accelerates decline. It's not one bad meal that causes harm, it's repetition. Here's where smart preparation can change the outcome. Peeling, cutting, soaking potatoes in water, and boiling them in a large pot can reduce potassium by up to 50%. Portion size matters more than most people realize. Half a cup of properly prepared potatoes is very different from a full plate, and avoiding pairing potatoes with other potassium-rich foods in the same meal gives aging kidneys a chance to keep up. Potatoes are not the enemy. Unawareness is. When eaten frequently in large portions and prepared the wrong way, potatoes can quietly push kidneys past their limit without pain, without drama, until the damage is already done. And this is the moment where everything comes together. Because once you understand how these 5 vegetables stress aging kidneys, the real question becomes this: what should you eat instead to give your kidneys relief, and how small changes can make a bigger difference than most people ever expect? If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's this: your kidneys are not fragile, but they are honest. They respond directly to what you ask of them meal after meal, day after day. If you've been feeling more tired, more swollen, or less like yourself lately, please don't blame age right away. Very often it's not about getting older, it's about giving your kidneys more work than they can comfortably handle. And the good news is small changes truly matter. You don't need extreme diets. You don't need fear. You just need awareness, balance, and consistency. I made this video because too many people don't get clear, practical guidance until problems are already advanced. If this information helped you understand your body a little better, please save this video so you can come back to it later or share it with someone you care about. And if you want to keep learning how to protect your kidneys, lower your risk naturally, and make smarter food choices as you age, subscribe to this channel. Every week I share clear evidence-based medical insights designed to help you stay stronger, healthier, and more confident about your health decisions. Remember this: it is never too late to be kinder to your kidneys. They work quietly for you every single day, filtering your blood, balancing your fluids, and keeping you alive in ways you rarely notice. With a few thoughtful choices, you can reduce their burden, protect their function, and give yourself more good years ahead. Take care of your kidneys, they're worth it, and so are you.